A quick word from our friends at FanDuel. The NFL regular season has wrapped up, but there's still time to get in on the playoff action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed just by placing a $5 bet. That's $150 in bonus bets, win or lose, for new customers. The app is easy to use, and there are so many different ways to bet, including live same-game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explorer tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best and easiest way to find popular parlays, and so much more. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to make your first bet a layup. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL. I want to set up this first topic, guys, with this. Bull, you mentioned yesterday that someone tweeted out how many teams would trade their starting quarterback for CJ Stroud straight up.
Right.
And I think we all agreed that the list is 5-6 teams tops, correct?
I mean, it could be more than that, possibly. It depends. I mean, if we're all prisoner of the moment, right? I mean, there's been other guys who have had good rookie seasons and went backwards in year two and were never quite as good.
Yeah. Notables, RG3, big injury. Colin Kaepernick had a lot of success early in his career. Who else?
Baker Mayfield.
Well, Carson Wentz. Hell, Carson Wentz.
Baker Mayfield had a great rookie
Baker
season.
Mayfield's like this. Every other year he's up, he's down, he's all over the place. But for the most part, the guys that we mentioned, RG3, Colin, and Carson Wentz, they never really, they're washed out of the league, pretty much.
But after a rookie season, if you looked at it, Stroud had a really good rookie season. So I think if the question was in the next 5 years, who would you take, Flacco or Stroud, we'd all take Stroud and not think twice about it for obvious reasons. But if you put it into a playoff context, for a one game or a playoff run, run, would everyone switch their answers from the rook to the wily vet who has tremendous postseason success?
I think you'd be crazy if you didn't.
Yeah, right now, I mean, if you would ask this question 6 weeks ago, I would have stuck with CJ Stroud.
Of course.
But right now, I mean, I would definitely take Joe Flacco. There's no debate that you would take CJ Stroud over Joe Flacco going forward. But for right now, of course you'd take Flacco, in my mind, because I got one guy who not only has a ton of playoff experience and has won a million games on the road, not literally, but, he's won a lot of games on the road, but also he's playing very well. Now, you could argue Stroud's playing a little better than Flacco because he doesn't turn the ball over. But there's not enough of a gap in their play right now that I would go with the inexperienced guy. So, of course, I'd go with Flacco.
Yeah, I agree. Flacco's 5-0 in first playoff games, which means he's never been bounced in a first-round game. Mm-hmm. The moment will not be too big for Joe. He's played on the biggest stage and played well. And all while betting on himself. We've talked a lot about this little 5-week run of his, about how it's kind of house money, and he's playing loose and free because he thought he was done. But at the same time, we've seen a time in his career when everything in the world was on the line. Mm-hmm. The Ravens offered him a contract going into their Super Bowl season, and he said, you know what? I'm going to let it ride. He put everything into the middle of the table. I don't know that you can have more pressure.
No,
because
and he played great.
And he not only played great, he won the Super Bowl and was the Super Bowl MVP. So I don't think pressure's going to affect Joe. How it affects CJ Stroud, we'll see. I went back just for fun and looked up his numbers last year. This is the biggest game he's played in his career, was last year against Georgia. The Buckeyes did not lose that game because of CJ Stroud.
Oh, no, he played well.
If you remember, they had a big double-digit lead for most of the fourth quarter. Georgia put up 18 points in the fourth quarter to come back and win. CJ Stroud in that game was 23 of 34, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns, no picks against the number 1 defense in college football.
He was balling.
So that stage was as big a stage as he could play on up to that point in his career, and he didn't blink.
And last week was essentially a playoff game for them, and he played great also.
Exactly. 20 of 26, 260 yards, no picks. The one thing that gives me pause, guys, make me feel better about this if you can. I don't know if you'll be able to. In an entire season, Stroud threw for 3 fewer interceptions than Flacco threw in 5 games. That scares me because I think we will all agree turnovers and mistakes decide playoff games. Play a clean game. Don't turn the ball over. Your chances of winning go up dramatically. The 5 picks for Stroud on an entire season as a rookie is unbelievable when you consider that Peyton Manning in his rookie season threw like 26 interceptions.
It's the fewest interceptions for any rookie quarterback with at least 300 attempts in NFL history.
That's impressive, guys.
It is impressive. Now, the only good defense he played all year was the Ravens.
I don't know. Is that true?
I mean, they only played 4 teams that made the playoffs. They played the Browns, but he didn't play that game.
Right.
They played the Steelers. He played against the Steelers defense, which is not bad.
He had 306 against the Steelers.
Steelers defense, I think,
then he
is pretty
played
damn
against
good.
Jacksonville, who doesn't have a good defense. So he played against 2 good defenses, Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So I don't know. It's not enough of a sample size. I think
there weren't any good defenses that aren't in the playoffs that he played against? Because I didn't study their schedule.
They played the Jets, but he got hurt in the first quarter. So
he did?
That's when he suffered the concussion.
I look at it like this.
It's a fair point, though, Bull. Like, if you're putting up those numbers against subpar defenses, they still get paid.
It is who it is.
Yeah,
I mean, the schedule is what it is. He did a great job. I don't say it to knock him.
Right,
I'm just saying he hasn't been tested very often against a defense the caliber of the Browns.
It's clear this will be the best defense he's seen all year.
Without a doubt.
And we talk about it all the time. We talk about how regular season is regular season, postseason is postseason.
All the stats start over.
All of that.
Yeah, you're 0-0 now.
Now it's win however you're going to win.
Right.
And one thing that you really understand and you start to see is when you get into playoffs, that intensity ratchets up to a point where this ain't college and it's not even regular season. The speed of the game, it starts to increase. Now, instead of guys taking one pass rush off, guys aren't taking pass rush off. Right. They're going as hard as they can, tap the helmet and come on out. When they're going to be fighting for every inch, every first down. And the great part about it is, and when you ask, who would you rather take? And I always use this analogy of people, because people, they're like, oh, you're not really putting it in perspective. CJ Stroud is bald all year. Why would you say that Joe Flacco has some sort of advantage over him? I look at it like this. Like, we sit on this panel all the time. You guys, when I got here, I did this for, on the internet, right? But it's different before doing it on the internet and saying, live, go. It's different from having time to set your stuff up to finding out where you get your voice out in the comments. Yeah. And if you go to any venue, the great thing about a veteran is, if I ask Adam the Bull or Jay Crawford, hey, listen, I'm in a pinch. I need you to come over here and give me a speech. I need you to come over here and introduce somebody. I need you to come over here and MC an event. They don't even need no notes. They don't need no notes. They've done it so long, so often, that it's like, all right, well, let's go. It doesn't matter if it's a bar mitzvah. It could be a baby shower. It could be a
call Bull for the bar mitzvah.
Jay ain't coming to that.
I don't know.
Sweet 16, a quinceañera.
JV,
good word.
JV awards for volleyball.
Yeah.
If you have to have no JV and volleyball award ceremony, but you get the point. Now you take them. And you say, okay, well, let me go get somebody who's 2 years in the game and does part-time. That's different. You get up there and start stumbling, bumbling. It's easy. That's what I look at Joe Flacco, and that's why he's able to throw a couple picks in games, because guess what? He's going to come back right and throw the ball like he never threw a pick before, and that's how he can keep his people in the game.
Hey, McNuggets, can you pull up his playoff line? Touchdowns to picks in his playoff
For Joe Flacco?
games. Yeah, for
Steve, you pull up 160, please.
He's already got it built.
He has 25 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,250 yards, 88.3 rating. 88.6, sorry.
I mean, that's pretty, guys.
That's pretty.
Yeah, now, a lot of that was earlier in his career. Obviously, it was all earlier in his career when he was a better quarterback.
Shows, though, Bull, I don't think the psyche and the mental part of it changed much.
Yeah.
And I think what that shows is he takes care of the football a little bit better, at least the comparison, the ratio is better in the postseason than it was for him this year.
Yeah.
I just think it's really going to come down to the turnovers. And I want to touch on something you said on the speed of the game. I've talked to a lot of NFL veterans about the arcs of their career, and they always say, and you'll know this, and you've heard this, guys have said this all along, they thought when they were in college, how much faster can it get? I mean, it's football. And then they go into the preseason and they kind of fool themselves because the speed is half speed. And they're like, it's a little quicker, but it's not. And then that first NFL regular season games happens and they're like, okay, there were more gears to go in the transmission. And there's another level to this. And they've all said the same thing with the playoffs. The jump from the regular season to the playoffs is similar to college to pro. Now, if you go back to Stroud's early games as a Texan, he had some success, but he also struggled.
Yes.
And I think it took him a minute to adjust to that speed. I also think it will take him a minute to adjust to the new level of speed in a playoff game. Whether that's one game and he can adjust, or 4 games. It's different for everybody.
Or one drive.
Right.
Right.
We all know. And there's no doubt. We all agree he's a special rookie. He's not just a rookie. However, there's a reason why rookies playing in their first NFL playoff game have a terrible record.
You're right.
A lot of it is because they're rookies. Now, part of it is they've often picked up a team that wasn't that good, and the Texans.
Well, particularly when you're the second overall pick.
Right, and are the Texans that good around CJ Stroud? I mean, they're good. They're better than we thought they were, but they've lost their best receiver. I mean, Nico Collins is a really good player, but they're not loaded with skilled position talent. They're not terrible, but they're not loaded with skilled position talent.
And you think about it like this. If we noticed that, wow, Nico Collins is getting targeted every play, wow, against the Colts, you don't think Jim Schwartz understands that?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the Browns have corners that can make your life. If they wanted to get cute about it, they could just say, you know what? Nico Collins is not getting the ball this game. We got 2 on him, and we got 2 really good ones on him. So let's see if you're patient enough to dunk it to Dalton Schultz. Let's see if you're patient enough to stick with the run game and not force anything.
Right.
Let's see for 4 quarters, can you make the right read under pressure and not force nothing? And that's a tough task, right? That's a very tough task.
I would do that if I'm them.
I think that's what they will do.
My focus is on Nico Collins.
100%.
I'm not going to get killed by Dalton Schultz. Singletary's a perfectly fine running back, but he's not a special player. So that's the guy I'm most worried about. He's a really good player.
Especially when Houston comes out first play from scrimmage and they draw up a nice play that gets him isolation. There's no deep safety over the top.
That throw by Stroud was unbelievable.
Unbelievable. That's how you open a game, especially a meaningful game. And I want to make this point. When you're playing on the road, as they were, it was brilliant, I thought, for them to draw that up. If you miss on it, you miss on it. You got to miss deep. You can't underthrow it. But if you miss on it, fine. But if you hit on it, and they did, and they talked about it on the broadcast, the energy was just completely left the building.
Yeah, that was
that place was on fire to start the game.
The Texans.
Yeah,
Very first play.
100%.
By the way,
I got to bring something up to you guys real quick, Bull. And I went through, I made the Flacco playoff stats this morning. I didn't remember or realize this, but to your point about quarterbacks getting more comfortable as the season goes on, I think there is, and I'm sure there's tangible evidence. I don't have it ready to present right now, but quarterbacks in the playoffs also getting more and more comfortable. How many games do you think it took in Joe Flacco's postseason career for him to throw just 2 touchdowns? Just 2. How many games?
I don't think it was the Super Bowl year, was it?
No, he did before Super Bowl year.
Yeah, but I bet it was a number of games into his playoff career.
His 6th postseason game.
Yeah, it's different.
You ready for his numbers in his first 5 postseason games? And once again, that 2011 playoff run, unbelievable. First playoff game, 9 for 23, no touchdowns, no interceptions, 135 yards. Second, and he won.
And they won that.
They won that game.
But
they also won
remember,
this next game.
just for context, the play calling for him was super conservative.
limited.
And they had a great defense, great running game.
They basically said, Joe, we need 1 field goal drive, and we're going to win the game.
This is not an indictment on how he won these games. I'm just putting out there for
they
a
just
little
took
context.
no chances because they didn't need to.
And I'm saying this to show that they had the reins on him as a young rookie quarterback until he got better. Second game, they also won this game. 11 for 22, 141 yards, 1 touchdown, no picks.
Wow.
Won that game. AFC Championship game against Pittsburgh. 13 of 30, 141 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks.
Wow.
Got smoked in that game.
Yeah.
Next year, wild card round, they won this game 4 for 10, 40 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. Won that game. Next game against Indianapolis, 20 for 35, 189 yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks. They lost that game.
Yeah.
After that, his playoff took 2 years of playoff. They won 3 games, so it's not like he did nothing, but numbers, 1 touchdown, 6 interceptions in his first 5 plays.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And then he took off.
Yeah.
Then he takes off. You have 2 touchdowns, 1 touchdown.
And everybody grows at a different rate.
3, 2, 4 in his next 11 games. So I'm not trying to make a point. I'm
Mike,
just showing that there is growth here that happens.
Mike, let me ask you this.
Shoot.
How many of his playoff losses were to Roethlisberger, Manning, and Brady? Were they all?
So he has, in his career, 5 playoff losses. We'll count this year first. 2009 to Roethlisberger. 2010 to Manning.
Yeah.
2011 to Roethlisberger. 2012 to Brady. And 2015 to New England, that was Brady. Yeah, you're right.
All of his losses to the
And
Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
That was a really tough time for anybody in the AFC not named Pittsburgh, Indianapolis, or Denver.
I mean, it was mostly Indy.
It was
mostly
New
Manning
England.
and Brady.
It was mostly right.
But Ben Roethlisberger's a Hall of Famer too.
Had Ben played in another era, probably has 2 more Super Bowls.
Yeah. I mean, he's not that level of quarterback, but he's a Hall of Fame quarterback.
No, but their runs were stopped.
Yeah.
It's the same with Roethlisberger. A lot of his playoff losses came to Tom Brady.
That's right.
Or Peyton Manning.
I was doing some research yesterday. We've been talking about the narrative that Joe Flacco wants another opportunity because he thought he was out of the league. I found this comment that Ray Lewis had when Ray Lewis retired. It was in 2016. Now, mind you, they played together from 2008 until 2012. They won the Super Bowl. He carried them. And I think he's haunted by the way he's perceived in the league, right? And it talks about it. It says, Ray Lewis publicly questioned the passion of Joe Flacco when he was asked why the Baltimore Ravens quarterback has been so inconsistent this season. He says, and this is Ray Lewis talking about Joe Flacco, he says, gifted? Sure, absolutely. Passionate about what he do in the game? I've never seen that. Lewis told Fox Sports 1 on Thursday, I don't know what that looks like. And he's talking about in terms of whether or not Joe Flacco is passionate about what he does. Lewis said that Flacco isolates himself on the bench after a big play.
We've seen it here.
And he said he believes more emotional players like Steve Smith need to coax Flacco into showing more emotion.
Which he has shown a lot of emotion with the Browns.
You know what? Let's just talk about that comment. I love Ray. But honestly, I think that's an unfair shot at Joe Flacco, and here's why. When our quarterbacks are overly emotional, the quick critique is, oh, no, I need him being on an even keel.
Too high, too
And when
too
they're
high.
on an even keel, we say, hey, show like you care.
Well, we do that with coaches, too.
We do it with coaches as well.
Yep.
We do it with players in general, but specifically, I think, with quarterbacks.
Yeah.
And I just think that's an unfair character assassination on Joe Flacco. Look,
also-
no one was as passionate as Ray.
Right.
But also, Jay, he came into a team with all these great defensive players, and
And he was never going to be the leader of that team.
Never.
He might have been, who knows, maybe he was a little intimidated when he first got there. He felt like he couldn't lead. Who knows? I mean, he's a
Possible.
different player now. We saw, you see him all fired up on the sidelines.
Now
He seems very different.
Now it's because
He faced the end.
he when you look at your legacy, and that's a big thing about when people write stuff, they talk about the pen of a scholar is way more than the blood of a martyr. Like when you write the narrative, that cements you. When 4 or 5 people,
That's legacy bound.
That's done.
Yeah.
So not very many people get the opportunity to come back and rewrite their legacy.
He's writing a postscript.
Yeah, he's like, hold on, these are contemporaneous notes. Hold on, I wrote this. I got a chance to show not only and if you ask Joe Flacco, if you pull him aside and you ask him, because I didn't even know this. Me and my dad do this little game where, we say, what player is this? How many yards they got? So we were going down a list of most all-time yards, and I was asking him blind, can you give me the top 20? How many can you do? And Joe Flacco's in the top 20 in a lot of those records. And if you pull him aside and say, do you feel like you're a Hall of Famer? He'd probably see a man and say, yeah, I'm a Hall of Famer.
He's not.
No, he's not now.
He's not now. However,
Yeah.
There's a big however there.
The however is, I got a shot. And when you get in the playoffs and you feel like you got a second life, he's saying, okay, well, let me see what y'all think will be now.
Yeah.
If I take this team with this city and this roster, now you got to revisit a few things, right?
Well, his only chance of getting in the Hall of Fame, and it's a slim chance, is if they win the Super Bowl. Otherwise,
correct.
he's got zero chance.
See, I agree with that.
I agree.
But here's
I don't
the
even
thing.
know for sure he's in with the Super Bowl.
I told a friend yesterday, we're talking about the Browns upstairs and what this means to the Browns and Joe Flacco's legacy.
Yeah.
He's playing for redemption. Mm-hmm. Remember, he called the Jets, and the Jets were like, no, we're good.
We're straight.
And they weren't. And he's proved it. And he proved it against them by dropping 296 in the first half against them. He's playing for a Super Bowl ring.
Yep.
He's playing for a gold jacket, in my view.
I believe
and the reason I say that is because what is the list of quarterbacks that have won 2 Super Bowls, particularly with different franchises that aren't in?
I don't know that there's any. Personally, even if he wins the Super Bowl, I would not vote for him for the Hall of Fame. I don't think you should go to the Hall of Fame just because you won 2 Super Bowls, because he hasn't been. Let's be honest, he hasn't been a Hall of Fame player.
No, but there are other guys that haven't either that are there because they want to. And what if he's the MVP of the Super Bowl? Then I think it's
yeah, but we
if he's
have.
the MVP.
I don't think we have any modern examples of a player like Joe Flacco in the Hall of Fame.
We probably don't. But what he's doing now, coming back, I think that the reason he's the sexiest story in the NFL, and he is, by the way. Look around. When you're on the internet and you're reading NFL playoff articles, there are a lot of guys using pen and paper to talk about this Joe Flacco story. With each win, like after this week, 6 stories are going to fall by the wayside.
Yeah.
Those teams are done.
Right.
So now you're climbing up the mountain. You become the bigger story. With each win, this story becomes more and more unbelievable, more and more. America loves a comeback. We love a comeback.
He about to turn into Seabiscuit in a second. Like,
by the way, we always use the term "America loves a comeback." Do we think Finland doesn't like comebacks?
I don't know. I've never lived in Finland.
Does Denmark not like a comeback?
That's a good question because I've never
heard
lived
Morocco
there.
appreciates a comeback like nobody.
But I will say this: if he drags,
they're all about the comeback.
If he drags and elevates, see, LeBron understood this when he won in Cleveland and was the first to get that title. That was worth 3 rings. By itself is worth.
Felt
3.
like it.
Now, if Joe Flacco does it in Cleveland, off the quote unquote couch, that's worth something.
It's next level. We'll ask Cecil Shorts. He's going to join us right now. But before we get to Cecil, really quickly, because we touched on this yesterday, and I think Cecil will be a good guy to talk about this with. We mentioned that at the highest level on the collegiate stage, CJ Stroud was spectacular. Does the OSU experience mean anything at all coming into an NFL playoff game?
For me, it doesn't, but I don't know. You played in college.
I'm not going to dismiss it totally. I think if when you got to lie to yourself when you get to a certain level, right? You just lie and say, "Oh, this is just I've been here before.
Yeah.
I've had big games." Now, I don't think he's going to fall apart mentally. Like his background and just by his father being in jail and him not being able to see him and play, his story is tremendous. He's not going to fold. He's not foldable. Now, here's the thing, no different. It's
a home crowd, too, so it's not hostile.
Now, folding and being like, okay, well, I only got 3 seconds to decide, or the pressure, the speed of the game and the magnitude of what the defense is giving you, that's different.
Yeah. Quickly on that, Joe Flacco, we documented it, took him 6 games to get his playoff legs. He didn't play a game like that in college. Mm-mm. He went to Delaware. He probably played in front of 15,000 people, was the biggest crowd. CJ Stroud's a different pedigree. So we'll see, and again, it's going to be a friendly crowd for him, not hostile. A road playoff game is the real test under fire. Okay, McNuggets.